every Sunday evening, so as to is going to be another very interesting episode. As we have known that we always have in our midst as facilitators people who have experiences apart from the knowledge that they have privilege, that I welcome each and every one of us to this uh, 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 as usual, we have known that when we converge like this every Sunday, we have opening prayer, opening dua, and Bismillah, the opening prayer.
This meeting is being recorded.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We thank Allah for His goodness. We thank Him for His blessings. We thank Him for His mercy. We thank Him for the gift of blessing. May Allah be our guide. May He be our protector. May He grant the wisdom to what He has for us. And we pray to Allah as well that He give us, as we that we are listening, the best of wisdom, so we can comprehend the total culture in the best of ways. And we now pray that may Allah make the life to be a hujjah for us. I'm not against one of the ask Allah. Let us all recite the facts here to this particular webinar and pray for His barakah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير الضالين آمين. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Jazakumullahu khairan jaza to Imam Ibrahim. Ibrahim. May Almighty Allah reward you with mercies, inshallah. Our next item shall be the address from our chief missioner. Opening address, opening remarks from our chief missioner. But as it is, I'm not sure he's online yet. I will invite Imam Misbahudin Olagunju, that's the chairman of the committee that organizes this program every Sunday, to please declare this webinar open. Declare today's program open. Imam, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-mursalin wa sayyidi nabiyyin wa rahmatullahi lil alamin Muhammad bin Abdullah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. We thank Almighty Allah for giving us another opportunity to meet this afternoon. We thank Him for everything He's doing in our lives. On behalf of the Chief Missioner of Nasrullah al-Fati, in person of Sheikh Al-Imam Muhammad Maruf Abdul Aziz Unike, on behalf of the entire executive of Nasrullah al-Fati, I welcome every one of us to this webinar of Nasrullah al-Fati, NASFAT. NASFAT is an acronym of that means Nasrullah al-Fati. NASFAT has more than 1,350,000 members throughout the world. We have branches in Nigeria, which is in West Africa and other places. And we have national university that is university. We also have a foundation on zakat and sadaqah and others. So we welcome our lecturer to today's program. Our lecturer in person of Associate Professor Anwar Misbah Sobra. Welcome you to our webinar. We ask Almighty Allah to continue to increase you abundantly, both of this earth and the hereafter. So I will implore every one of us to pay attention to his lecture when he is delivering the lecture. I will advise all of us to pay full attention to him so that we can benefit from the earth of knowledge. Allah Ta'ala accept this from us as act of ibadah. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Assalamu ala mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. So, Imam Misbahuddin Olagunju, the chairman of the committee that organizes this webinar on a weekly basis. We pray to Almighty Allah to reward you with a more abundant message, inshallah. So he stood in for Chief Missioner, who is supposed to give us the welcome address, but due to some circumstances, he is not yet online. I'm very sure that before the end of this webinar, Chief Missioner will definitely be online to address us, inshallah. So, Imam, Jazakumullahu khairan. Now, today we are going into Islamic finance. That's where we shall be looking at today. We shall be going into Islamic finance. You call it Masrafiyatul Islamiyya. Masrafiyatul Islamiyya. Some may even call it Al-Iqtisadiyatul Islami. However, I'm sure when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. Lecturer is very much capable to take us through the concept of cryptocurrencies, relevant Islamic issues. That's the thing we shall be looking at this period. We shall be looking at cryptocurrencies, the relevant Sharia issues. Relevant Sharia issues. What are the Sharia issues? Is Sharia in support? Is Sharia not in support? So, but I would like to take you through a brief citation of our facilitator so that we familiarize ourselves with him, we know him better. Associate Professor Anwar Misbah Sobra is of the Beirut Islamic University in Lebanon. He had been an instructor and supervisor of PhD and master's thesis in Islamic finance since 2016. He has also been a lecturer of business administration courses at several universities in Lebanon. Also, he is the head Sharia compliance in Islamic banks in Bahrain and Oman. Our lecturer is also someone that has wealth of experience in conventional banking. He has been the retail credit unit head at Saudi Arabian Bank, Riyadh, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He had a bachelor's degree in business administration from the American University in Beirut. He also holds PhD and master's degrees in Islamic studies from Imam Qusair Islamic College, Beirut, Lebanon, with major in Islamic economics and finance. So you can see the reason we have invited him. Associate Professor Misbah Sobra had attended and presented many working papers in several conferences on Islamic banking. He had published several books in Arabic and English languages, as well as articles on Islamic finance topics in some specialized magazines and newspapers. In addition, he had participated in offering training on Islamic banking in several countries, such as Bahrain, Iraq, Lebanon, Morocco, Oman, and Turkey. Inshallah, brothers and sisters in Islam, it's a pleasure to present to you Associate Professor Anwar Misbah Sobra from the Beirut Islamic University in Lebanon. Inshallah, he will be taking us through the cryptocurrencies, relevant Sharia issues. So I wish each and every one of us a happy, let me say, happy listening while we take note of some very key important notes, and then we ask relevant questions. So if you have questions, you can, of course, go to the Q&A segment on top of the screen where you drop your question, and I'm sure relevant answers will be provided after the lecture, inshallah. So, Dr. Anwar Misbah Sobra, Ahlan wa Sahlan, you are most welcome. Bismillah, you have the stage.
السلام عليكم جميعا.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I thank all the speakers who have made their opening talk in the beginning, and I thank you for this invitation to give me the chance to make this event and meeting with your esteemed university. And I think that we are going to have some solid outcome from it. So as you said, I wish that those attendees, if they have any questions on the material that I'm going to present, please have some notes and we can discuss. And it is better, of course, to have a discussion rather than a one-way oriented lecture. Now, I will concentrate on this topic, which is a very contemporary currency. And as we know that there are so many views regarding cryptocurrencies from a Sharia perspective. We have some Sharia scholars who have said that cryptocurrency is permitted based on their own interpretation. The majority of Sharia scholars did not accept cryptocurrency, that it's not Sharia compliant, and definitely their Sharia parameters. And we will arrive through the slides that I'm going to show, which side is more convincing to us. And then I'm going to say my opinion on this. Definitely with reliance on Sharia parameters, not on my own personal thinking. Now, this is in fact a very, the number of slides are about 60 slides. It's a very extensive slideshow presentation. So I'm not going to read the slides for you, but I'm going to present the idea and discuss it with you. And then you can read and you can have this PowerPoint presentation available to you, and it can be distributed. Anyone who wishes to have it, then you are welcome for the university to distribute this PowerPoint presentation to anyone who is interested in having this information. Therefore, I will start by the lecture by referring to cryptocurrency as a peer-to-peer transaction. When we say technical terminology that is used to describe it, peer-to-peer, it's person to person, one-to-one, without any intermediary. And in fact, we have a previous transaction, which is called crowdfunding. Therefore, cryptocurrency is not the only new idea to present what we call a peer-to-peer. It means we want to overcome banks, we want to overcome the financial markets, and we want to do some financial transactions between us as individuals directly without any middle intermediary and without paying any fees. Now, therefore, this peer-to-peer, we have these two major financing transactions, which is crowdfunding and now cryptocurrency. Now, you know that cryptocurrency has been introduced in 2008 when the Bitcoin was first launched in 2009. The idea started in 2008. It was launched in 2009. And then it has reached the, as we say, high sky levels. And we are going to see from the numbers how so many people, the number of people based on statistics are interested in these types of currencies, and we'll see why. Okay, now how are we going to look at cryptocurrency? What is the perspective? How am I going to arrive at a result that say, is it Sharia compliant or is it Sharia non-compliant? Therefore, we have to split our discussion in 2 parts. The first part is on the nature of the currency and its role in the economy. This is the first part, which is the major element. And the second part refers to the contractual transactions in cryptocurrencies. Therefore, supposing we say that the transaction of cryptocurrency is Sharia compliant, but then in its essence, cryptocurrency is not a currency in its nature. Therefore, the whole formula and the whole premises falls apart. Therefore, there's no need to go into part 2 about contractual details before we establish that in its essence, cryptocurrency is a currency, is accepted as a currency, it has a role in the economy, and if this survives, then we can move in and see are the contractual details of these transactions Sharia compliant or not. Therefore, I'm going to try to dig into these 2 parts and see where we are going to arrive. Now, currently, if you look into our financial system, and I have chosen the American type of pictures because the world, as we all know, is dominated by the dollar, and all currencies revolve. We have the USA as the focal country, and all other countries are the United States, and their currencies are basically linked to the US dollar. Therefore, what is the type of transactional process that goes around whenever we are talking about transfers? Why should I concentrate on transfer? Because cryptocurrency currently now, it only deals with money transfer, nothing else. Therefore, there's no financing by cryptocurrency. We don't have that yet. The only transaction, as it is evident, I search everywhere, the only transaction that cryptocurrency executes now is only transfer of funds. Full stop, nothing else. Therefore, I need to compare the transfer of funds as it happens now and the transfer of funds as it happens in a cryptocurrency. For home, therefore, here, in this instance, in our current financial system, we have a legal process. We have regulatory institutions. You have the government, you have a parliament, or similar type of political institutions, and we have a central bank. Therefore, when the central bank needs to issue a currency, you need a law to be passed by the parliament or presented from the government. It has to be approved by the parliament, and then the central bank will execute this new law in the monetary policy. Therefore, we have a new currency introduced. It's approved by regulatory institution. And then this system, the transactions of this system occur within the banking system. We have a number of banks. The number itself is irrelevant, but we have a banking system which is constituted of the commercial banks, the central bank. Therefore, the central bank will issue this currency. The commercial banks will receive this currency, and they will start processing these transfers. Now, as you can see in the picture, then people stand in queues in the banks, and they will present their transfer application, and they have to pay the value either in cash or from their account. Now, how does the transfer take place? If we have a primary knowledge of a banking transaction, then we can see that one client needs to transfer a sum of funds to another person in a different country or maybe in the same country. But this first client, number one, will approach to walk in the bank and pay Therefore, validation information is done by the bank money, and then is permitted to make transfers. He has no legal issues. That he has the money in account, or he's present to avoid the anti-money laundering, and then they have to verify his identity to see his ID. Therefore, validation is happening at this point here. Therefore, the bank will accept this money and transfer through the SWIFT system, right? Which is the SWIFT is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Therefore, this is a system in the United States to facilitate the transfer of US dollars from one country to the other. Therefore, this bank, the transferor bank, will deposit this money in the account of bank number 2 at the point of destination. Now, this bank at point of destination also will do the same type of validation for the receiving client. His ID, his signature, why he is receiving this money, and what to do with it, and is it legitimate? Therefore, here in both cases, we have validation at these 2 points, the point of origin and the point of destination. This is how the job is being done now. Now, why do we do this? Why this happens? Why do we need this central bank? Why do we need official institutions? And what is the ultimate reason for it? In fact, if you look into the literature regarding currencies, you look into the literature, we have lots of literature on that. And then you can see that, you can read that currency is a fact of sovereignty for each country. And this is why it's only the central bank who issues currencies based on authorization from the parliament, from the government, or let me say, the official regulatory institution. Therefore, not any individual can issue a currency. Why? Because these currencies are a token for sovereignty. It resembles the sovereignty of a country. It is the highest element of sovereignty of a kind, of a country, a currency, the highest level of sovereignty. Therefore, sovereignty, which with reference to a person who has supreme power or authority, or this is, we are referring here to the official regulatory institution. Therefore, monetary sovereignty, when we say monetary sovereignty, we're talking about the monetary policy, which is governed by the central bank, is the power of the state, right? Of the state to exercise exclusive legal what? Control over its currency. Therefore, it is the official regulatory institution that issues the currency, and they have to regulate it. Okay, it doesn't float around freely. It has to be regulated. It has to be controlled. What is the currency impact on sovereignty? Therefore, this money here allows the government to use the monetary system to pursue the public purpose. It means the government has certain economic goals and certain monetary goals. And by presenting this currency to the public, they need to achieve these objectives by this currency. Therefore, we know that the financial system, the central bank and commercial banks are in fact the financial arm of the economics. Therefore, a government will put its own economic objectives. The financial system is supposed to finance these projects, these economic projects, to achieve the economic objectives. And this is basically done through currencies. Now, once we de-link this relationship, it means that Now, economic objectives are on one side independently, and the currency or the monetary sovereignty is somewhere else. Therefore, we have no link, and this will defeat the purpose of having a currency, which is the financial arm to achieve economic goals. Therefore, when you come to sovereignty, it means that this country needs to regulate its own currency. If you don't have control, you have a big problem here. As the case in cryptocurrency, anybody can issue a cryptocurrency if you have the blockchain technology. Therefore, they have to achieve their economic policy objectives. You need the monetary policy, which relies basically on the money supply, which is represented by the value or the amount of currency which is presented in the market. Now, this leads us to a final decision that having a strong currency, it means it leads to geopolitical power. And I don't need to talk into politics, but as you can see, if you follow the news, you would know how the US dollar dominates the world trade, global trade, international trade, and more than 75% of international trade is transacted by using US dollars, including oil, and the majority of foreign currency reserves are also in US dollars. And this is the dominant currency in the world. Therefore, you know that we have what we call the hard currencies, like the US dollar, the euro, the Japanese yen, and the sterling pound. The Chinese yuan is not a hard currency. The Russian ruble is not a hard currency, although they are superpowers, but their currencies are not. Because I don't need to go into this discussion, but basically, if you have this strong currency, it means that it leads to geopolitical dominance. Now, this is part of the definition here on the functions of currency and what it does. This is why we have a European Union, and they introduced in the year 2000 this euro. Instead of having all these individual European country currencies, now we have only one. It's not only for economic reasons, but also for political reasons. The same applies for United States of America. Therefore, you have one US dollar for 52, right? 52 or 51 states. Not each state has its own currency. It's a single US dollar. Therefore, it's dominated, controlled, initiated by the official regulatory institution in the federal government. The same thing now applies for the European Union. Therefore, you can see that where the relationship comes between currency to economics and into not only politics, but geopolitics. Therefore, this is a big game. Okay, it's not just presenting currency in its face value. It's not a simple issue, right? It has its own complications. Therefore, what happened when they issued the euro? It means that each country had to give out some of its sovereignty because they eliminated and they stopped using their own currency and they agreed to use a single euro currency. It means these European countries gave part of their sovereignty to the Union. Okay, therefore, this is the first implication. And then definitely it has the regulatory official institutions, the European Parliament, the European Central Bank, and so on. Now, what happens to the other countries who don't have these hard type of currencies? Yeah, they are only followers. Therefore, who has the sovereignty? Sovereignty here comes with the. Therefore, if all these currencies are linked to the dollar, it means the dollar has the sovereignty because these individual currencies don't have their own solid stand. And if they are not linked to the dollar, they will crash. Therefore, the sovereignty is in fact to that currency to which the local currency is linked. It doesn't have a standalone position, and this is very dangerous. Now, cryptocurrency in this respect, which is issued by individuals, if you have the technology and you issue this cryptocurrency, what does it mean? It means that you are eliminating the sovereignty of this country and issuing a currency, and you are throwing away, you are alienating all these regulatory official institutions and taking the matter into your own hand as an individual. This is the extent of impact. It's not something simple. Okay. Now, there was a public hearing in the American Congress regarding cryptocurrencies. They were discussing cryptocurrencies, the Libra, which was supposed to be issued by the Facebook owner. And in this hearing session, one of the, in fact, the head of the hearing session, the senator, he attacked this cryptocurrency very severely by saying that issuing cryptocurrencies will alienate the US dollar, and the United States use the US dollar as a weapon against all countries that do not submit or do not accept the American dominance. Therefore, they use the dollar as a weapon instead of having military action. And we can witness that in many countries. Without mentioning, you can see around the world what's happening. This is what they call the weaponizing the dollar. Now, what happens if you issue cryptocurrencies? It means the dollar will lose this influence and this geopolitical impact globally. And this is something which cannot be accepted by the American political system. Now, not only that, but in fact, the US can simply switch off this system as a sanction against any country that is described as rebellious to the American politics. They will switch them off the SWIFT system, and then the whole banking system will collapse, as happened also in many countries. Therefore, cryptocurrency as it stands, it's something very independent. Once you compare it to paper currencies, the hard paper currencies, it's a different story. And we have to be very delicate about this matter. And we have lots of articles that have been written by Americans on this issue, and I've put all the links for you if you wish to follow up on that. Therefore, if the majority of people would shift to cryptocurrencies, the dollar will be alienated, and then it means that some company like the Facebook will have the geopolitical power, and they will control politics of many countries. And this has serious repercussions. It's not a simple issue, and we have to think about this very seriously. Therefore, even if you need to issue cryptocurrency, it has to be within the limits of the official regulatory institution. Okay, so we have to bear and keep any element of currency related to central bank and regulatory institutions. Now, you can read all these. You can follow up with it. Now, what happens in the transfer currency? Now, this is a peer-to-peer transaction. What happens in a peer-to-peer transaction of cryptocurrency transfer? It's very simple. What happens is that one person who has an account that includes cryptocurrency transfers an amount of money to another individual who has an account also. And the transfer happens immediately and is effective within 10 minutes. While in the banking system, you need something like 24 hours to 48 hours because it has to go through the SWIFT system until the money is deposited in the bank's account and then to the final beneficiary. In the peer-to-peer, it's immediate from one client to the other, from one account to the other account. Therefore, what happens here? We are eliminating all the official regulatory process, and individuals are transferring money without any official regulatory process. I transfer to somebody else. That's it, full stop. 10 minutes, he has the money. No control, no regulations, no supervision, no auditing, no nothing. Who will substitute all the regulatory framework for validating the transaction, which is the transfer? Also individuals. Therefore, an individual transfers money to another individual, and then a certain number of individuals will act to validate that this transaction is true, instead of using banks at both countries. Therefore, somebody says, I transfer $100 to Mr. B. Therefore, from A to B. Then we have Mr. D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, all the persons that you can ever think of. They get into the system and they want to validate that Mr. A has an account, Mr. A has a good electronic signature, Mr. A has money in his account, he has enough balance. Mr. A has a valid account and he is using a valid password. Therefore, whoever validates this transaction is paid a Bitcoin. This doesn't happen in all types of cryptocurrencies. The majority use the same system. Therefore, the reference here is what? From individual to individual, and also individuals will validate the transaction. Therefore, we have no institutions, no central bank, no banking system, nobody. This is why we call it peer-to-peer. And why is it called decentralized? Because everybody who enters into the process of validating a transaction will have the same type of information from A to B. It will be available to everybody. And nobody can play around with this information. So if you change this information at one point, it will be discovered that all other points are not changed. Therefore, it will not be validated. Therefore, here it means individuals are taking this transfer process in their hands. Why they want to do that? So many reasons they want to do that. Therefore, we are eliminating regulatory institutions. We are eliminating the banking system, including central bank and commercial banks. We are not using a paper currency, eliminating the paper currency. And then people are taking all this in their own hands. Simply said, if you go now into cryptocurrency, how does it work, and the technology and the blockchain, I'm not the right person to present it to you. I'm not a technology guy. I'm not an IT guy. But if you go into the details, you can see how it happens. But this is the simple description of the transaction, how it happens. How many cryptocurrencies we have already? Based on this last statistics, which I dug out today, as of January 2022, we have 9,929 cryptocurrencies issued already. Okay, so it's not 100 or 200, it's 9,929. We have some other sources that say that this number does not reflect the truth, and the reality is more than 10,000, much more. But I will be very glad to accept this number, 9,929, just to show you, to prove that we are not talking about few individuals who have the know-how to introduce a cryptocurrency. Now, anybody can buy the blockchain technology and issue their own cryptocurrency. This is not a simple transaction. Now, the case of Nigeria, in fact, is very, very interesting. And I think it should be looked upon into more depth and have a detailed research on it. I had some at the top of the iceberg, as I said, some information. And it was, in fact, very interesting to discover that the top 5 countries, within the top 5 countries, Nigeria is number 3, where you have 13 million people dealing with cryptocurrencies. And this was a surprise to me that out of 32 million accounts in Africa, 13 million out of them is Nigeria. It's very interesting. It's this type of how shall I describe it? It's a presentation that has to be looked upon very thoroughly to first to confirm that this number is true and to discuss the reasons for that. It's not. We shouldn't just be happy about it and move on. We have to discover why Nigeria has the highest level of people dealing in cryptocurrency are interested in that. So you have to study the Nigerian economy, the Nigerian currency, the Nigerian monetary policy, and investments, and the whole outlook, the whole economic outlook, to see why individuals are interested specifically in cryptocurrencies in Nigeria. Therefore, if you have USA and UK, number 2 and number 5, and then you have India, Nigeria, and Vietnam, these are on the lower echelon, and they are about in the 5 top countries. This is very interesting, very surprising. And then you have on the demographics, 79% are males, 58% are under 34. Therefore, all this has 82% have a BS degree, university degree. Therefore, it requires a full study and analysis, not from me. Not from me. I'm not going to do the job. You have to do it for yourself. You operate in a university, and you have to study this concept, and you have to a full comprehensive study, research regarding this, with the proper statistics to arrive at analyzing why Nigeria is in this position. 6.3 of Nigerians on cryptocurrencies, and then you can. It's a very interesting case, and I think that you have to follow up on it. Definitely. Now I will come at the end on the e-Naira, where you have the Nigerian cryptocurrency. I have some comments on that. I'll try to speed up the PowerPoint presentation here so that I can spare more time for discussion. Here, definition and characteristics of cryptocurrency. What is a cryptocurrency? It is not paper, it's not metal, it has no intrinsic value. It is algorithm and mathematical models. Okay, therefore, we are talking about numbers floating around in computers. This is something very new. Now, where I showed you the previous slide, it shows where Mr. A transfers to Mr. B, and he writes it on what we call the general ledger. And everybody can see it because it's decentralized, meaning that it's not available only at one end, at one bank, at one individual. No. Anybody who enters into this general ledger can see it, and he can save the data, and then nobody can change it after that. And then when you have the blockchain, they say that given that we have a blockchain technology, therefore this process of validation, instead of being done by the banking system, it's being done by individuals. And this process of validating transaction is called mining. Right? So therefore, mining is not like mining gold and silver, where you have to dig into the earth. No, it's an IT type of mining. It's all done by computers, where the one who wins the race to validate the transaction wins to own the reward. Therefore, these cryptocurrencies are virtual, right? It's not material. It doesn't exist. You cannot hold it in your hand. Nobody can give you in your hand something called a cryptocurrency. It doesn't exist. And they have no intrinsic value. Like gold and silver, if you have a metal currency, it has intrinsic value. And it doesn't have, therefore it is not a currency because it has no intrinsic value. Like metals, it's not a commodity because it has no intrinsic benefit, right? We'll come also to that. What do you mean it doesn't have any benefit? It means, okay, I have a chair, I'm sitting on a chair. I have eyeglasses, I can use it to see. I have electricity, I use it to bring in light. You have a pen, you can, therefore I have food, I eat. Each type of a commodity has its own benefit. What is the benefit of a currency? Nothing. The benefit is what you can buy with this currency of goods and services. There's no benefit in itself. Therefore, if you're talking about cryptocurrency, paper currency, fiat money, there's no intrinsic value, there's no intrinsic benefit. Therefore, there's no purpose of trading the currency. You can only use it to buy commodities. So keep this in mind. Therefore, in this respect, cryptocurrency has no intrinsic value, does not maintain official or governmental guarantee or cover. So here I said, or cover like paper currencies. Also, this needs more in-depth research, because paper currencies are also not guaranteed by anybody. Now I'm going to have a slide where you have similarities between cryptocurrencies and paper currencies, right? And these similarities, and you can see that both of them, paper currencies and cryptocurrencies, they have no guarantee, and they have no cover, and they have no intrinsic value, right? A very high degree of similarity. Therefore, it's not a commodity that has no intrinsic benefit. It's not also an asset, because it's not an economic resource available for investment. An economic resource available for investment, if you open any book of economics, you can see what is the definition of an asset investment. This is economics 101, right? Therefore, here you can see that cryptocurrency is not a currency, it's not a commodity, it's not an asset. What is it? A ghost. Therefore, what are the variances first? Therefore, it has a physical presence, but it's not consumable, right? A cryptocurrency has a digital name. It's a mathematical formula. It has no physical presence. A paper currency has a physical presence. You can put it in your pocket, right? And you can use it. Or if it's plastic money as actually a financial pay. Now you can use modern technology. And when you go to cryptocurrency, you need to have access to this website that trades the specific cryptocurrency. A paper currency is pervasive. What do you mean by pervasive? It means that it's spread around. Everybody in the country can hold a naira, but the cryptocurrency is not. It's only available to those who have a smartphone, a laptop, internet connection, and a good supply of electricity. If you don't have these, then you cannot have access to cryptocurrency. Are not stable, they are not fixed, they are always moving up and down on daily basis, on hourly basis, sometimes when it's hectic, on a minute by minute basis. And in cryptocurrency, it's even more volatile. If you remember that the Bitcoin arrived at something like $60,000 or more, and now it dropped below 37. This is something like 50% almost. So it's even highly volatile, more than paper currency. Paper currency is issued by regulatory authority. Cryptocurrency is issued by any person, not any person, I mean, definitely, but if you're talking technically, you own the blockchain technology, and that it's referred to individuals, only the regulatory authority. It's subject to regulation. Cryptocurrency still has no regulatory rules in most countries. The money supply of paper currency is decided by regulatory authority. What is the volume of Bitcoin? It's fixed at 21 million. Who decided that? It's the inventor of the cryptocurrency. Why? For a certain formula that for each Bitcoin validation process, which is mining, it needs 10 minutes. And based on this 10 minutes, you will validate the transaction, you will get a reward of 50 Bitcoins. After a few years, the 50 will drop to 25. Therefore, every few years, it will drop by 50%. So if you plug this into computer formula, it gives you that for each 10 minutes, and based on this reward that you will get, the maximum amount of Bitcoins to be issued is 21 million. But what happens if you need more Bitcoins? You cannot supply. Now we can see to that. We arrive to that. In paper currency, the government controls, the central bank controls that. Now, the paper currency is relevant to a specific country. I'll say the Nigerian naira is relevant to Nigeria. The Lebanese lira is relevant to Lebanon. The Bitcoin is relevant to which country? Ethereum, Dogecoin, no country. Anybody, anywhere, no country assumes that's my currency, it's my money. Nobody Nobody says that this is our currency. Paper currency is irrelevant to our country. But currency is officially and legally recognized. Cryptocurrency is not recognized. It was only the IMF issued a circular advising El Salvador to withdraw their acceptance of Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency because of the damage that it will do to the economy. It's a country that recognizes Bitcoin as a legal country, which is El Salvador. The currency exists with the existence of the country. What happens now if Mr. Satoshi decides to close the Bitcoin website? Right? We're saying that Bitcoin is market value now is capitalization is something like $1 trillion. Now it dropped by 50%. What happens if Mr. Satoshi decides to close the website? By the way, do you know who is Mr. Satoshi? Satoshi Nakatomi. Do you know who he is? If you follow the articles, they say that Mr. Satoshi only a name. It's not a reason. And that he has no existence. And now there is a law case in Florida whereby the IT genius who discovered or who made the blockchain technology died a few years ago. And now his heirs are requesting from the court that they own 50% of, because Mr. Satoshi, when he said that we are going to issue Bitcoin 21 million, I will keep 1 million for myself. Is this Sharia compliant? Anyway, now his partner, the heirs, he says that we own half of this, which is $30 billion. Who is Mr. Satoshi? The court requested Mr. Satoshi to come to court. Nobody shows up. Who's he? Nobody knows. So it's an imaginary, non-existent personality that has no legal presence. So you see what the conflict. Now you're going to see more slides about that. The paper currency is accepted as a medium of exchange by all users. The cryptocurrency only by
The recording has stopped.